Hello and welcome into the KE Report. I'm your host, Shad Markowitz, and today we're getting an update from AbraSilver Resource Corp, trade on the TSX.V under the ticker ABRA, and under the OTCQX under the ticker ABBRF. And we're joined today with the president and CEO of AbraSilver, John Miniotis, and co-founder, non-executive director, and board member and attorney, Hernán Zaballa. And gentlemen, it's great to have you on the call to discuss not just AbraSilver, but also the jurisdiction of Argentina. And we hear a lot of news out in the silver space about what's going on in other countries in South America. But there's a lot of positive developments as far as Argentina that may be getting overlooked by the marketplace, or maybe people just don't understand what's going on from a political standpoint. And this ties into things like taxes and permitting and the ease of bringing mining projects into development. So these are important issues to discuss. And John, I'm going to throw it over to you first just to maybe give us a high-level overview of the changes that have been going on in Argentina and what that means to mining companies.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Chad. Always our pleasure to be on. Yeah, no, as you mentioned, there's certainly a lot of positive developments going on in Argentina, just from a high level. I'm sure most people are aware President Milei was elected in December, so just over 6 months ago now. And really his main platform is focused on encouraging long-term national and foreign investment into the country, really to help grow the economy. And he's looking to do that by removing barriers that have been implemented over the last several decades, really, that have restricted capital investment from flowing into Argentina in the past. And so I'd say one of the key pillars of President Milei's platform, which really impacts mining companies, and of course, AbraSilver in particular, is this new bill that was just approved by Senate last week. So this is called the incentive regime for large investments. In Spanish, the acronym is RIGI, R-I-G-I. And so, yeah, this bill really is a game changer for new investments in the country. Very, very significant positive impact, I think, which is really being underappreciated by, I'd say, most North American investors at this stage. And so, yeah, happy to talk more about this bill, but just from a very high level, so your listeners understand. Basically, for any new investments in the country of over $200 million, there are several very, very significant economic benefits here. So the tax rates would be decreased to 25% instead of 35%. There'll be no FX restrictions starting from year 3 onwards for any new large-scale investment projects. You know, this bill removes export duties from year 3 onwards as well. Those are currently very, very high. So lots of significant benefits here that, are very, very material. And so we're absolutely monitoring the passage of this bill very closely. I think investors should be as well. It's certainly very, very positive development for anyone operating in Argentina. And, I think is clearly very positive development for us at this time.
Yeah, some pretty exciting political moves from the macro scene, but also for the micro scene down into the mining sector. And some of those different bullet points you just highlighted are a big deal for companies as far as how it affects their revenues, how it'll affect their permitting, how it'll affect their currency exchange rates, how it affects foreign capital coming into the country and getting back the capital out of the country. So a lot of big things in there. Hernán, I want to throw it over to you just because you have the legal background being an attorney, but you also have kind of a boots on the ground perception of what's going on in Argentina. Maybe give us a few more high level initiatives that are going on with the government that you think are positive for the industry and for the country.
Thank you, Chad. Yes, of course. Many changes are taking place in Argentina since Milei took office, as John was explaining. One of them was the reduction of inflation. He started his period in December with 25% inflation that month. And last week, the most recent inflation rate was published for May, and it's 4.2%. So it's a very important reduction, still too high, but he wants to keep improving that. At the same time, the fiscal deficit was very high in Argentina. He reduced that to 0. So many reforms are taking place. And the 2 packages of laws that he needs for making deeper reforms, not only in the administration, but tax reforms. Among them, of course, these incentives that John was talking about. That package was sent to the House of Representatives, approved by the House of Representatives, now approved by the Senate changes. So it has to go back to the House of Representatives for them to insist on the original text or accept the amendments made by the Senate. But we are talking about, I would say, 2 weeks from now to see the outcome. So we are pretty close to some big changes. And among those changes, not only tax, as I said, but deep reforms in the administration. We have the RIGI, this regime that John was talking about, with very good benefits for the mining industry, particularly for infrastructure, for oil and gas, and the reduction of taxes. Imagine that today, any project, gold, silver project, has to pay export duties, 8% for gold, 4.5% for silver on FOB value. And with this reform, with this incentive, you will pay 0% after 3 years of operation. So it's a very important, it's a material change. It will change the feasibility of the projects. So we are glad to see what's going on in Argentina.
Yeah, those export duties dropping down so much is a big deal indeed. And man, the inflation coming down that much just in a short amount of time. Hernan, I just one more follow-up. How are people, living their everyday lives? How are they responding to these changes? Because some of the changes are pretty radical compared to maybe what people have been used to, but it seems like it is impacting the economy in a positive way. What is the general reception from people as far as some of these changes?
Yeah, that's a good question. Reception is good. Although, as you know, when you reduce inflation, of course, consumption is reduced, and that takes the economy to a kind of recession. But anyway, he got support. You know that Milei won with 56% of the votes. So it's one of the largest votes received for a president in the years of democracy in Argentina. So it's still the same kind of support is still on, because people understand that even when suffering with the economy recession, they know we are going somewhere. And all this reduction in inflation will in the end benefit the pockets of the Argentinos. So everybody is still supporting, and even the politics are supporting, because if you see Milei, when he won the election, he only had 37 representatives out of 257 and 7 senators out of 72. And he could manage to convince the other politicians and political parties to support these deep reforms. So he's receiving not only support from people, still very high, or in the 50%, I would say, of people supporting him, even with these reforms and the recession, but also from the political side. So this is very important. We see these changes are accepted by the society. This is very good.
Yeah, I do think it's a good chapter for Argentina, and it's good for the future. John, I want to throw it back over to you because Hernan brought up another interesting point. In addition to the reduction in inflation, the infrastructure. And I don't know how that ties into maybe the Diablillos project specifically, but I would imagine on just a countrywide basis, having an improved infrastructure, having capital to redeploy maybe from a large government nanny state into actual things that help everyday citizens is also going to help the industry and help manufacturing. It's going to help mining. It's going to help multiple industries. How do you think that some of these changes in infrastructure or some of these other changes on a broad scale will tie into the development side of things on a project like Diablillos?
Yeah, no, certainly. These are all very, very positive developments, without question. For us, at Diablillos, the good part is, we already have excellent infrastructure going to site. So further improving infrastructure, of course, is a significant benefit. But for us, really, I guess the major changes here would be the impact of the reduced taxes, the reduced royalties. And I think for investors, it's very easy to quantify. We just published our latest technical report with the pre-feasibility study. And there's a table in there. I'm looking at it right now. It's table 22.2 in that technical report that we published. And you can see the impact. The export duties, just for gold, impacted our net present value by $140 million US. The export duties for silver were an additional $104 million. And so, of course, reducing those to zero starting from year 3 onwards saves, improves the net present value here of over $200 million US over the life of mine of our project here. And then with the income taxes, those were calculated at the current rate of 35%, and that was $500 million in taxes that we were paying over the life of mine. And again, reducing that to 25% is a very, very material decrease. And again, well over $100 million benefit there. So you're talking about several $100 million here benefit just from the lower royalties, the lower taxes. Obviously, there's other benefits as well, which we haven't even talked about, but even the infrastructure benefits, et cetera. I mean, this is a very, very positive development, I think, for Argentina. But the other important point to note as well is that in Argentina, once you have a feasibility study completed, you can sign then a stability agreement with the government, and that locks in your taxes, your royalties for a period of 30 years. And so at ABRA, we're very fortunate. I mean, we're expecting to have a feasibility study completed by the end of 2025. And so once that's in place, we'll be able to sign a stability agreement. So we'll have the benefit of locking in these lower tax rates, lower export duties, lower royalty rates for the next 30 years. And yeah, we think it's a huge, huge boost to the economics of our project. And, I think it's great, of course, for the country. And I think, you're seeing that with a lot of companies now looking at Argentina, investing in Argentina for the first time in decades. So we're extremely well positioned already, having been in that country for several years now. And I think it's positive developments here. And so I think, investors should absolutely be paying attention.
John, one thing that is very important in this free regime is the free availability of export proceeds that John mentioned before. That's very important for getting the projects financed. Usually in Argentina, all the projects exporting minerals, they are obliged to bring back the proceeds into Argentina and convert them into pesos, which is usually a restriction for getting financing abroad, or it makes things more difficult. So with this free availability after 3 years, in a gradual way, because you have 20% of your export proceeds freed the first year, 40% the second, and 100% the third year, will also improve the conditions for getting the projects financed in Argentina, which is very important. And in terms of infrastructure, we are located at the Puna. The Puna is a big plateau at high altitude, flat area at high altitude, but it's a large space and surface, I would say. And some infrastructure is being proposed in the Puna to improve energy transmission, etc. So we think that yes, of course, this RIGI region will help energy companies to start thinking of infrastructure in that region and improving infrastructure for the projects. In Salta, particularly where the project is located, Salta is booming with new projects. So infrastructure is always welcome.
Yeah, great points, Hernán. I think that the power side of things and improving the power transmission will only help the cause. And then, as you mentioned, the ability to get projects financed because of the change in those export duties and how that changes over that 3-year period is a huge win. John, maybe one more thing, just tying into the point you made as far as other companies finally looking at investing in Argentina. To that point, you've brought on a couple of big partners recently. It might be nice to flag that here as far as their first entry into Argentina, companies like Teck Resources and Kinross. So maybe just break down how these changes on a political scale, on a business scale, and how they affect the economics of the project are getting the majors interested.
Sure. So yeah, as you mentioned, at our La Cuepita project, which is our secondary project, which is located in the San Juan province of Argentina, back in January, we announced an option deal with Teck, of course, the largest base metal mining company in all of Canada, one of the largest in the world. So an excellent partner there. Teck has not really had any exposure to Argentina for the last several decades, at least. And so, they signed that option agreement with us. They've completed now their initial 2,600 meter drill program. We're waiting back for the initial assay results. And that's an option that spans over 5 years. And so we're hopeful they'll obviously continue to drill there and eventually make a big sort of copper porphyry discovery, which is what they're looking for. And from ABRA's perspective, we would maintain a 20% interest ultimately once Teck exercises that option agreement. So that's, of course, very, very positive. It's great to be partnered with Teck. They're, of course, advancing that project while we focus on Diablillos, which is, of course, our key asset. And there, Diablillos, again, just recently, a few months ago, we announced a large strategic financing where we brought in Kinross Gold. Again, Kinross does not have any projects in Argentina at the moment, so it's very favorable to see them investing in us at the corporate level. And then we also brought in Central Puerto as the other large investor. They each invested $10 million each. Central Puerto is the largest utility company in all of Argentina, and this is their first investment in an actual mining company. So again, another first there. So yeah, no, we're extremely fortunate. We have great partners. We're fully cashed up. We're drilling at the moment. And there's clearly lots of interest in Argentina. Companies looking to gain exposure in the country. And of course, lots of companies already operating there. And so, yeah, we're continuing to advance. Our drill program's going very well. We have 3 drill rigs active. Expect to start getting back some assay results from the lab over the next few weeks here. And then, lots of news flow ahead of us here in the second half of this year.
Just a real quick follow-up on that, John, on the drill program, the 20,000 meter program, phase 4, maybe just give people listening, if they haven't been following along, the game plan and how this is looking at some new areas. You're stepping out into some new targets, and you're also drilling some targets that were just discovered at the end of last year. So maybe just speak to some of the focus of this year's drill program.
Yeah, no, it's the most aggressive exploration campaign for sure in our company's history. So up until now, all of the drilling historically at Diablillos has focused on the main pit, which is called Oculto. And then last year, we discovered this new high-grade Jack zone, which is an extension of the main pit. And so this year, we've allocated about 75% of the drill program to continue to expand both Oculto and Jack. So at Jack, it's open in several directions. And so we're of course drilling to expand the high-grade areas at Jack and also around Oculto. There's several other deposits as well that we're looking to eventually bring into the mine plan. But what's really exciting is that we're also about 25% of the budget currently is focused on exploring areas that we've never drilled in the past. So about 3 to 4 kilometers to the northeast of the current resource, we have a whole porphyry complex that we've always known was there. But we've just never had the funds to properly drill that out. And so now we're doing some more geophysics on the porphyry complex as we speak. And then that will help us cite some specific drill holes there that we're planning. So that's, yeah, lots of upside potential there from that porphyry complex. And we also have this new target to the north of Oculto called Jasperoid. And this is something we identified with geophysics as part of the last survey that we completed in 2022. And again, we weren't able to drill that in the past as we were focused on Oculto and Jack, but now we're actively drilling there as we speak. So lots of positive developments, looking to continue to expand around the current resource and then looking at some step out, sort of regional targets as well. So pretty exciting. And yeah, we can't wait, obviously, to start getting back some of these results from the lab.
All right, so a lot of news flow on tap from AbraSilver in the months to come here, and not just from the Diablillos project, but also looking at La Copita results to come back in from the drilling that Teck Resources was doing, and all these new targets that you're going after as a company. So I appreciate both you gentlemen coming on the show today, really to talk about the sea change going on in not just the political side of things, but the economic side of things in Argentina, how the jurisdiction's improving, and how this all means better economics for projects going into development. And if people want to follow along with the news flow out of AbraSilver Resource Corp, definitely click on the link below this interview. It takes you over to the company website directly to the news section. John, Hernán, great to have you on the show, and looking forward to our next conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, pleasure.